Tua, Horobare, Tua, Tua, Watua, Horobarete, Tua, Tua, Horobar, Tua, Tua, Kerila, Horobarete, Tua, Tua, Horobarete, 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 Horobalete, Tua, Tua, Horobalete, Horobalete, Tua, Tua, Horobalete, Horobalete, Tua, Tua, Horobalete, Horobalete, Tua, Tua, Horobalete, Horobalete, Tua, Tua, Horobalete. Rise, Mzansi, rise! Rise, Mzansi, rise! I rise! I rise! We rise! We rise! Together! Rise, Mzansi, rise! Rise, Mzansi, rise! I rise! I rise! Together! Ke a leboga. Whoa, what a welcome. Honored guests, those who are visiting us today to give us their wisdom about what we should discuss and the things that we should take into account when we decide how we're going to make South Africa the best country in the world. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your kindness in giving us your time. Time is a priceless gift because when someone gives you their time, they can never get it back again. When the sun sets today, today will be gone. It will never come back. So we must appreciate people who give us their time. Personally, I appreciate each one of you who has given up your own time for the South Africa that you deserve. This is a good investment of your time because all of us are going to make sure that it is. I want us to take in where we are. To my right here is the Constitutional Court. it is where the judges of the Constitutional Court decided that South Africans have a right to life. The state cannot kill anyone without justification. That was the end of the death penalty. The court decided that South Africans have the right to be in a proper home, in a house. This same court has decided correctly that the government cannot just make any decision without explanation. It has to be rational. And this same court decided that South Africans must get HIV and AIDS treatment. This same court has decided that South African people have environmental rights. I can go on and on. There are politicians who lie and say the problem is the Constitution. Because the Constitution is not something that you can go to and protest. They have failed to implement it. That Constitution has said education is a right, and many other rights that we have in Chapter 2 of the Constitution. They lie and they say this is a problem. They lie and say the reason South Africans don't have land is because of the Constitution. But when they wanted to build the Gautrain, there was no problem. But they ate from the Gautrain. So the things that are important to them, there is no problem. The Constitution seemingly allows them to do. When they're supposed to do them for the South African people, they say the Constitution is a problem. They are liars. So we must take in where we are, because this is a very important place in South Africa. This venue is very important. And in the nation-building discussion, we will talk about ways in which we can reconnect with meaning, so that June 16, 1976 is not Youth Day. It is June 16, 1976 Day, so that we can commemorate the bravery and commitment of young people to freedom and not have parties. We can't have parties when so many young people don't have work. So thank you again for coming. It was in October last year that South Africans from all over the country gathered in Braamfontein for the Mobilizing People's Power workshop. Some of you were there, many not. But it was the first time people started talking about the people's movement for change. On 26 November, people spread across 6 venues. In Johannesburg, about 500 people. In Mahikeng, in Mthatha, in Durban, and East London took a firm decision to start the Rise Mzansi campaign. The state of the country today, as Dr. Lehotla showed, shows that this was the right decision. The government is running out of money because even though we are borrowing hundreds of billions each year, the money is wasted or stolen. South Africa now pays nearly 30 billion rand per month in interest alone. We pay more per year servicing loans than we do on public health or higher education and training. That's South Africa today. We have had load shedding for 14 years, 16 if you count the 2 years that it wasn't so bad. But if you look at Eskom, they do not have a permanent chief executive or finance director. Eskom owes nearly 400 billion and spends more money servicing its loans than it does on maintaining our electricity infrastructure. The same is true for Transnet. Transnet now transports fewer goods than it did in 1994. Transnet pays over 1 billion a month to service loans made during the state capture years. This is money that could be used to fix the railway system, maintain locomotives, and make sure that the economy grows so that people can find work. Instead of feeding people who are now dying of hunger and depression, we are repaying loans on money that is being stolen by ANC cadres and their friends in business. And you know what? They are still stealing it today as we sit here. So today we have gone backwards. Unemployment is higher today than it was 20 years ago. There are more unemployed young people today than 20 years ago. There are more unemployed graduates today than at any point in South African history. Nearly half of all children who start school never finish because of poverty, hunger, stunting, drug abuse, and other problems. A child born today only has half a chance of reaching university and even less chance of ever getting a job. Patients in Gqeberha, where I worked for 10 years, die in pain because doctors don't have needles to drain internal bleeding. The Provincial Health Department does not pay suppliers on time. And so about a month and a half ago, the sheriff arrived to take the furniture, cars, and equipment away while patients waited with little hope for care. In South Africa today, mothers take their own lives after poisoning their children because they are just too hungry and desperate. Many of you know I'm from the Eastern Cape, so I talk about it often. Mthatha is the nearest big town to my hometown of Mqanduli. This once beautiful town has fallen apart. Business people are shot dead in broad daylight. Armed criminals rob the store nearest to the police station so that they can show that they can do whatever they like. Businesses have to pay protection fees to gangs. This is true in Khayelitsha, in other areas of the Cape Flats, and in Matatiele, and many other places where South Africans live. We are living in a mafia state now. This is South Africa today. A country where people tell you in Rustenburg and Tabazimbi about the money they need to pay to secure jobs, or that women have to sleep with men in municipalities to get a job or to get a tender. We know this is true. It is a country where the police and ministers are captured by criminal elements, and the president keeps questionable money stuffed in his couch. And then Parliament protects them because they do not respect us. I can go on, but we do not have time. People are hungry. Children are dying. South Africa is falling apart. The situation is urgent. The question is, what is to be done? We are here to craft new answers to that question. We are here because Rise Mzansi's volunteers and supporters have decided that it is impossible to get better results while keeping the same old, tired politicians and their political parties in place. These people have no energy, no ideas, and no credibility. We need new leaders, and we need new politics, because we need new answers. The second thing we must do is to recognize that we have the power to decide what future we deserve. We also have the power to make it happen, and we will make it happen. Nowhere is it written that we must submit our dreams for approval to people who do not care about us. We must decide to be free in our own minds so that we can be free in real life. This weekend, we reclaim our freedom. The themes of discussion this weekend reflect the areas in which the South African people have said to us they wanted to see change. These themes are family, the community, it is governance, it is the economy, it is nation building, and what to do about the crisis of climate change. These are the outcome of a deep listening and reflection we have done with ordinary people from all walks of life, across the length and breadth of South Africa. South Africans want the quality of life of their families to improve dramatically. They want to live long, healthy, and safe lives where jobs, income, and building wealth are possible because there are basic services and opportunities to prosper. That's the life South Africans want. They want communities that are safe, connected, and livable because community infrastructure caters for all aspects of human development and well-being. They build open-air hostels with no parks, with no sports facilities, with no clinics, and so on. Because they just want people to live there and go and try and find work and never see their children and their families during the day. People want schools and clinics a short distance from their homes and facilities where children can discover their talents through the arts, sports, and culture. That's a South Africa we deserve. People want every adult to own land on which to build a home and grow food where they can. Why must it be dependent on income, whether you have a land where you can build a home or not? That's not who we are. That's not who we are as a people. I come from a village. You don't need to have a job to have land. Why can't we make that possible for every South African? So we need spatial planning that provides proper infrastructure for communities, regardless of race or income level. South Africans want a political system that grows democracy, not undermine it. If democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, then the people must be the boss. This weekend, we must talk about how we are going to make that possible. This business of politicians arriving late, disrupting everyone, expecting everyone to stand up on their feet, speaking about things they don't know or don't understand, and then leave before the thing is over, must end. And we must end it. South Africans want a government that is ethical, that is transparent and accountable so that corruption does not destroy our dreams. South Africans want to choose their own representatives and then fire them when they are no longer doing the job. South Africans want a modern economy where every South African has completed high school and obtained a qualification. Every single South African. Parents must not have to find additional money for people to get an education so they can earn an income and look after themselves. If money had not been stolen at Transnet and Eskom and so on, we would have money to do that. We would have money to support black and woman entrepreneurs. We would have money to build sports fields and so on. We don't because they've stolen it and they continue to steal it. And then they turn around and say, it's the constitution. They are lying. Every South African must have skills that can produce goods and services that other people in South Africa and other countries want to pay good money for. No more made in China. Yeah. With things that we can do ourselves. We must be careful. We don't have eggs. There are countries like the Central African Republic, matches, they import it. This is what happens when we allow the state to fail. We want a government that does not borrow money so political and economic elites can steal it, and then force future generations to pay the debt instead of investing in health, in social well-being, and in education. We also need to move from reconciliation to nation building. To show that we are a nation of hard workers and winners. A country of political representatives who want to serve rather than rule. We spend more money on the VIP protection unit than we do on equipment for the SANDF, which is supposed to patrol and keep our borders safe. So some of the things we must talk about is what to do with our money. We must build a culture of democratic participation, clean government, and accountability. We must commit to end poverty. Let's not do poverty alleviation. These people tell us that it's better to be a little poor. Not so poor, just be a little poor and it will be fine. We must be careful even of the language they use so that we have low expectations. Part of the culture of excelling is to have high expectations and then working hard to make sure that you can meet your own expectations. And anybody who does not qualify to reach the targets we have set must step aside. And we must commit to end racism. Let me say what racism is. It's not somebody calling you the K word. That's an insult. Racism is that if you are a black woman, you have to leave your children in somebody else's care and go and work 400 or 500 kilometers away so that you can put food on the table. That's racism. Because that is what apartheid set out to do, and that is still the condition today. Racism is when black mothers who look after other people's children can't afford people to look after their own children when they are not there. And then we wonder how some children fall into alcohol and drug abuse because their parents are forced to choose between raising them and putting food on the table. These things are not normal. We must talk honestly as men about the practice of beating and killing women in South Africa. It's not a policing problem. It's not a policing problem. The policing problem comes after you've done it. The fundamental problem happens before you do it, or at the point where you do it. We must speak honestly, because you can't put a policeman in every home, in every party, and in every tavern. The politics of responsibility must come back again. All over the country, the young and old are terrified of the effects of climate change. I come from a rural area. Crops are not growing because of new and strange weather patterns. Homes and entire communities get swept away in floods that get stronger and deeper than any of us have ever seen before. And yet the conversation that you will hear is about whether we should have coal or not, or renewables, because it is a conversation of the elites about the billions they can make out of our money. And when people die and lose their homes in floods in Durban and other parts of KZN, there is no money for it, but there's money for the VIP protection unit. Kanti, who's supposed to be kept safe here? So we are here because we want to build a society that is safe, free, equal, and prosperous within one generation. And what is a generation? A child born today. By the time they reach the age of 20 or 25, they have a job, they can buy a house, they can look after themselves, and they can build wealth. We are here because 2024 must now be our 1994. A historic moment where we will choose to take our destiny in our own hands and restore hope to our land. This is why we must rise. So please allow me to share with you Rise Mzansi's political frame quickly. We endorse our national values enshrined in the Constitution. We believe that our politics has failed to live up to those values. And therefore we are taking forward the work that has been neglected for 30 years. As Rise Mzansi, we believe that non-racialism will only be realized when we have economic justice. This is not just about a few black people owning the productive economy. It is also about spatial planning and investment that works to reverse old spatial patterns that keep black people poor. We refuse to believe that it is normal for working people to walk long distances to work so they can put food on the table. You know those people we see every morning trying to catch up with cars? They can't afford taxi fare. Let's not get used to that thing. It is not normal. Those people should be inside a safe municipal or provincial bus or train paying an affordable fee so they can save the money for their families. The minibuses people take are not public transport. Public transport is owned by the public. We must refuse to believe that mostly black people must use unroadworthy taxis, driven by people who show them no respect and pay fares they cannot afford. We're not saying put an end to the taxi industry, but dignity matters, whether you are at home, on the street, or in a taxi. Dignity matters. We can't talk about public safety and some people are expected to drive to work in unroadworthy cars. We can't accept that. It's not normal. So there must be honest conversations with our brothers and sisters in the taxi industry so that we can move towards a safe, affordable, and accessible public transport system. We also believe that no nation can claim to believe in human rights when people die of hunger. If you cannot solve for food, then you must just as well close everything down. Food, just food. And I don't want to dictate to you what you should decide, but if food is not number one on the list of priorities on Sunday, I am not doing the closing address. We cannot have people dying of hunger in South Africa. We cannot. We just can't. So whatever financial constraints the government says it has, surely we must feed children and their caregivers. Surely. Staying alive cannot depend on whether someone has work or not. Especially that our unemployment is not the fault of those who are unemployed. Communities must have the facilities and infrastructure they need to thrive. I ask you to think about those facilities. No more these are social issues. Everything matters. If there's no sports facility in your area, that is a political problem. If you have to take a taxi to get to the clinic or 2 taxis, that is a political problem. If there are no mental health, there's no mental health support in the public health system, that is a political problem. If drug addiction is regarded only as a crime problem, not a public health system, that is a political problem. The things that keep us awake at night personally must be political. All communities deserve parks, green spaces, sports fields, gyms, community centers, and other places where people can gather and build their life together. These are basic things that every community must have. They are not privileges. And so all of these colonial and apartheid era patterns, such as the migrant labor system where parents leave their children behind, are not normal. They are behind the brokenness in our families and communities. We must try to heal the country, not just with words, but by doing material things that repair people's lives and give them dignity. That's our job this weekend. So Rise Mzansi believes in a new normal where parents can go to and from work on the same day so they can nurture their children. We want communities where children, women, and girls can walk to and from public centers at all times without becoming victims of violence, especially by men. We must demand and build a country where we have enough doctors and nurses and other healthcare workers and caregivers. We know doctors in public hospitals work long shifts and then immediately go on call at the end of that shift and work 3 days flat. That's not normal. We must not tolerate it. So all of these things, and many more that I've just spoken about, is what social democracy is about. We all know that our economy does not work for everyone, but we now have even bigger problems than before. We cannot build an economy on broken infrastructure, load shedding, and a failing railway system, among others. We cannot build an economy on dams and reservoirs that have got no water in them. South Africans cannot start and grow businesses when criminals control the streets and extort money from businesses. Businesses cannot remain open when electricity, water, and other government services are so expensive. The years and years of corruption, of buying a roll of toilet paper for 100 rand or a laptop for 1 million, have brought the economy to its knees. You saw the article last weekend. That stolen money could have built roads and bridges, installed high-speed internet in communities, hired more police and paid them more. It could have bought better equipment for our army and police, hired younger soldiers and paid them fair salaries so they can protect our country, our seas and our borders. So as important as economic policy solutions are, we must recognize that we cannot build an economy without a strong, ethical, and capable government. We cannot. Unless we have a government that will take care of public money, implement rules of good governance, and fight crime effectively, the economy will not grow. Jobs will not be created. Bad governance by bad politicians and corrupt political parties is standing in the way of prosperity and economic justice. They only care about what matters to them. So when we have our discussions this weekend, we must pay particular focus on governance. We must, because it is needed. You can't build a home when somebody is busy stealing the money. These people even steal money meant for Madiba's funeral or Mamwini Madikizela Mandela's funeral. You really have to have no shame to do that. But they do it. So it is in our collective power to make change happen. There are millions of South Africans waiting for the message we will leave this venue with on Sunday. They want a strong message, and we must go and tell it with confidence. As we discuss these issues, let us continue the Rise Mzansi tradition of treating one another with love, consideration, and respect. Let us open our hearts and minds to new experiences and ideas, and emerge as better patriots. This is the only chance South Africa will get at recovery. It is a very big responsibility all of you have. If you did not take a selfie, take one, because it will be historical. Let us go and get our democracy back. Let us take our country back. Let us take our communities back. Let us protect our living spaces. Let us protect the environment. Let us be bold and say what South Africa we want to live in. Let us fight for it. Let us not listen to the naysayers who say it cannot be done, because we are going to do it. I thank you. Rise, Mzansi, rise! Rise, Mzansi, rise! I rise! I rise! We rise! We rise! Rise, Mzansi, rise!
Sizojikizito Wamukhalelane Wamukhalelane Sizojikizito Wamukhalelane Wamukhalelane Isikalo somntwana siwuye Wamukhalelane Wamukhalelane Isikalo somntwana siwuye Wamukhalelane Wamukhalelane Sizojika izinto emukalelani emukalelani Sizojika izinto emukalelani emukalelani Isikhalo somntwana sihoye emukalelani emukalelani Sizojika izinto emukalelani emukalelani I rise, I rise, we rise, we rise, together.
Thank you.